Krishna 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 He Krishna 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 Rakshamam. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for coming, who have tuned in, logged in. Reading of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 13, text 140. This is the chapter of the Lord's dancing at Rath Yatra. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Jaya Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. 140. This is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to Lord Jagannath in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So Mahaprabhu kindly give us an understanding of what is Radha Krishna worship by his reciting these prayers before Lord Jagannath. This is, I read 40, 39, 39, 39. My dear Krishna, formerly, when you were staying in Mathura, you sent Uddhava to teach me speculative knowledge, the mystic yoga. And now you yourself are speaking the same thing to me. But my mind does not accept it. There is no place in my mind for Jnana Yoga or Dhyana Yoga. Although you know me very well, you are still instructing me in Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga. It is not right for you to do so. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, I would like to withdraw my conscience from you and engage in material activities. But even though I try, I cannot do so. I am naturally inclined to you only. Your instructions for me to meditate on you are therefore simply ludicrous. In this way, you are killing me. It is not very good for you to think of me as a candidate for your instructions. Purport. Srila Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11, Anyabhilasha shunyam jnana kamadi anapitam anokalina krishna so shilanam bhakti uttama. For a pure devotee, there is no scope for indulgence in mystic yogic practice or the cultivation of speculative knowledge. It is indeed impossible for a pure devotee to engage his mind in such unwanted activities. Even if a pure devotee wanted to, his mind would not allow him to do so. That is the characteristics of a pure devotee. He is transcendental to all fruitive activities, philosophical philosophy, speculative philosophy, and mystic yoga meditation. The gopis thus express themselves in this way, as follows. The gopis are not like mystic yogis. They will never be satisfied simply by meditating on your lotus feet and imitating the so-called yogis. Teaching the gopis about the meditation is another kind of duplicity. When they are instructed to undergo mystic yogic practice, they are not at all satisfied. On the contrary, they become more and more angry with you. Purport. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati has stated in the Caitanya Caritamrita 5, Kaivalyam narakyati Tritadipar akshata pushpapati. Turutantendriya kala sharpa pala prakhata dham strayate Okay. One more line. Yet. Kataka vaivara vratam tam guram evo stumma. For a pure devotee who has realized Krishna consciousness through Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the monistic philosophy by which one becomes one with the Supreme appears hellish. The mystic yogic practice by which the mind is controlled and the senses are subjugated also appear ludicrous to a pure devotee. The devotee's mind and senses are already engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. In this way, the poisonous effect of the sensory activities are removed. If one's mind is always engaged in the service of the Lord, there is no possibility that one will think, feel, or act materially. Similarly, the fruitive worker's attempts to attain the heavenly planet it's nothing more than a phantasmagoria for the devotee. After all, the heavenly planets are material, and in due course of time, they will all be dissolved. Devotees do not care for such temporary things. They engage in transcendental devotional service activities because they desire elevation to the spiritual world, where they can live eternally and peacefully and with full knowledge of Krishna. In Vrindavan, the gopis, cowherd boys, and even the cows, trees, and water are fully conscious of Krishna. They are never satisfied with anything but Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the gopis have fallen into the great ocean of separation and are being devoured by the Timingila fish of their ambition to serve you. The gopis are to be delivered from the mouths of these Timingila fish, for they are pure devotees. Since they have no material conception of life, why should they aspire for liberation? The gopis do not want that liberation desired by the yogis and gyanis, for they are already liberated from the ocean of material existence. Purport. The bodily conception is created by the desire for material enjoyment. It is called vipada smriti, which is the opposite of real life. The living entity is eternally the servant of Krishna. But when he desires to enjoy the material world, he cannot progress in spiritual life. One should never be happy by advancing materially. This is also stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.7.30. Ananda gopi vishatam tamasram punas charpitam charanam. Though the uncontrolled senses may advance one's hellish condition, through the uncontrolled senses one may advance one's hellish condition. He may continue to chew the chewed, that is, repeatedly accept birth and death. The conditioned soul used the duration between between birth and death only to engage in the same hackneyed activities: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. In the lower animal species we find the same activities. Since these activities are repeated, engage in them is like chewing that which has already been chewed. If we cannot give up this ambition to chew the hackneyed material life and take to Krishna consciousness, instead, he will be liberated from the stringent laws of material nature. One does not need to make a separate attempt to become liberated. If one simply engages in the service of the Lord, he will be liberated automatically. As Srila Bilvamangala Thakur therefore says, Mukti Shvayam Mukti Miktanjali Shevati Shmam. Liberation stands before me with folded hands, begging to serve me. So liberation and sense gratification and liberation, they stand like in with folded hands to the devotees, especially Mayapur mentioned liberation and sense gratification. So we see that in the Rudra Retreat, Lord Bhaktivinoda, it's in the Navadip Bhavataranga, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he sees one goddess there by the Shiva Lingam. And when she notices him, he says, "Who are you, Mataji? What is your name?" And she says, "My name is Sayuja. Sayuja Mukti." And my sisters, Salimpya, Sarupa, Saloka, the different kinds of liberation, they've all become devotees. They've all gone off and joined Gauranga in his Sankirtan mission. And I'm left all alone. Nobody gives me any attention anymore because I'm Sayuja Mukti. Nobody wants this impersonal liberation, merging into the Lord. So my sisters who are giving other kinds of liberation have gone away and left me. I will simply stay here. And then my life, the place will be known as Nirodaya, no mercy. So here is showing that how they've all gone off and left me. I'm uselessly searching for them in the different deepas. I'm uselessly searching for them. So this is it. Confirmation now, Mukti is searching for the devotee of Gauranga. They stand with folded hands waiting to serve them. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, even though they're waiting with folded hands to serve, the devotees don't care for them, they kick them away. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, just hearing this name Sayuja, he said, I'm shivering in pride. Just like when Putana, somebody just mentions the name Putan. Putan was that blood-sucking witch. She liked to drink, especially children's blood. She was very fond of it. So that when the inhabitants of Vrindavan hear that name, Putana, 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 everyone is scared, especially Yashoda. She's coming to kill out Bhakti, kill out Krishna. So they shiver in pride. Yeah, so liberation stands before me with folded hands, begging to serve me. Bilvamangala Thakur was saying that. 143. It is amazing that you have forgotten the land of Vrindavan. And how is it that you have forgotten your father and mother and friends? How have you forgotten Govardhan Hill, the bank of the Jamuna, and the forest you enjoyed, the Ras Lila dance? Krishna, you are certainly a refined gentleman with all good qualities. You are well behaved, soft-hearted, and merciful. I know that there's not even a tinge of fault to be found in you. Yet your mind does not even remember the inhabitants of Vrindavan. This is only my misfortune and nothing else.
Radharani is saying this?
Krishna is saying, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying. As Radharani, he's expressing to Jagannath. I do not care for my personal unhappiness, but when I see the morose face of Mother Jasoda and the hearts of all the inhabitants of Vrindavan breaking because of you, I wonder whether you want to kill them all, or do you want to enliven them by coming here? Why are you simply keeping them alive in a state of suffering? The inhabitants of Vrindavan do not want to see you dressed like a king, a prince, nor do they want you to associate with great warriors in a different country. They cannot leave the land of Vrindavan, and without your presence, they're all dying. What is their condition to be? My dear king, you are the life and soul of Vrindavan Dham. You are especially the life of Nanda Maharaj. You are the only opulence in the land of Vrindavan, and you are very merciful. Please come and let all the residents of Vrindavan live. Kindly keep your lotus feet again in Vrindavan. Purport. Srimati Radharani did not express her personal unhappiness at being separated from Krishna. She wanted to invoke Krishna's feelings for the condition of all the other Vrindavan Dham, for all the others in Vrindavan Dham. Mother Jasoda, Nanda, the cowherd boys, the gopis, the birds, the bees, the banks of the Jamuna and the river of Jamuna, the trees, the forests, and all the other paraphernalia associated with Krishna before he left Vrindavan for Mathura. These feelings of Srimati Radharani were manifested by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore he invited Lord Jagannath, Krishna, to return to Vrindavan. That is the purport of Rath Yatra car going from Jagannath Puri to the Gundicha temple. Text 148. After hearing of Srimati Radharani's statements, Lord Krishna's love for the inhabitants of Vrindavan was evoked, and his body and mind become very perturbed. After hearing of their love for him, he immediately thought himself to be always indebted to the residents of Vrindavan. Krishna began to pacify Srimati Radharani as follows. My dearest Radharani, please hear me. I am speaking the truth. I cry day and night simply upon remembering all of you inhabitants of Vrindavan. No one knows how unhappy this makes me. Purport. It is said, Vrindavam parityaja padam ekam na gacchati. In one sense, Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha, does not take even one step away from Vrindavan. However, in order to take care of various duties, Krishna had to leave Vrindavan. He had to go to Mathura to kill Kamsa. And then he was taken away by his father to Dwaraka, where he was busy with state affairs and disturbances created by demons. Krishna was away from Vrindavan, and he was not at all happy, as he plainly discloses to Srimati Radharani. She is the dearmost life and soul of Krishna, and he expressed his mind to her as follows. 150. Sri Krishna continued, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan Dham, my mother, father, cowherd boyfriends, and everything else, are my life and soul. And among all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the gopis are my very life and soul. Among the gopis, you, Srimati Radharani, are the chief, and therefore you are the very life of my life. Purport. Srimati Radharani is the center of all Vrindavan's activities. In Vrindavan, Krishna is an instrument of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan still chant Radhe, Radhe. From Krishna's own statement given herein, it appears that Radharani is the queen of Vrindavan, and that Krishna is simply her decoration. Krishna is known as Madana Mohan, the enchanter of Cupid, but Srimati Radharani is the enchanter of Krishna. Consequently, Srimati Radharani is called Madana Mohana Mohini, the enchanter of Cupid. My dear Srimati Radharani, I am always subservient to the loving affairs of all of you. I am under your control only. My separation from you and residence in a distant place have occurred to me due to my strong misfortune. When a woman is separated from the man she loves, or a man is separated from his beloved woman, neither of them can live. It is a fact that they live only for each other, for if one dies and the other hears of it, he or she will die also. Such loving affairs, such a loving, chaste wife and loving husband desire all welfare for each other in separation. They do not care for personal happiness, desiring only each other's well-being. Such a pair certainly meet again without delay. 154. You are my most dear, and I know that in my absence you cannot live for a moment. Just to keep you living, I worship Lord Narayana. By his merciful potency, I come to Vrindavan every day to enjoy pastimes with you. Then I return to Dwarkadam. And thus you can always feel my presence there in Vrindavan.
Krishna worships Lord Narayan. Krishna is worshipping Lord Narayan.
Yeah. So he said, I get this special city that I can come every day. But the gopis don't know. They know he comes. And they have Ras Leelas and different pastimes. And actually it happens. And they're dancing. But in the morning when they wake up, they think, was that but just a dream we had, or was it real? Because we're thinking of Krishna anyway, all the time. So we don't know if it was a reality or not a reality. Is it just a dream? Is this continuing? So although Krishna comes there and they're dancing, they can't really understand that Krishna actually came there from Dwarka. And they were thinking it must be just a dream. 155. Thus you can always feel my presence there in Vrindavan. Our love affair is more powerful because of my good fortune in receiving Narayan's grace. This allows me to come here unseen by anyone. I hope that very soon I will be visible to everyone. Purport. Krishna has two kinds of presence, prakrita and apakrita. Apakrita. Manifest and unmanifested. These are identical for the sincere devotee. Even if Krishna is not physically present, the devotee's constant absorption in the affairs of Krishna make him always present. This is confirmed in Brahma Samhita. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanina Shanta Sadeva Hideshu Vilakayanti Jam Shama Sundaram Achinta Gunasharupam Govindam Mariprosham Tamaham Bhajami. Due to his intense love, the pure devotee always sees Krishna present within his heart. All glories to Govinda, the primeval personality of Godhead. When Krishna is not manifest before the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they are always absorbed in thought of him. Therefore, even though at the time Krishna was living in Dwaraka, he was simultaneously present before all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. This was his Uppercut Lila, presence. Devotees are always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, will soon see Krishna face to face, without a doubt. In other words, devotees are always engaged in Krishna consciousness and are fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, certainly return home back to Godhead. They then see Krishna directly face to face and talk with him and enjoy his company. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Tvakvatiham puna janmanoetimam eti sojuna. Because during his lifetime, the pure devotee is always speaking of Krishna and engaging in his service. As soon as he gives up his body, he immediately returns to Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna is personally present. There he meets Krishna directly. This is successful human life. This is the meaning of Prakritaha Anibi Shatvara. The pure devotee will soon see the personal manifestation of Sri Krishna. So some are seeing Krishna directly. No, they feel his presence in Krishna. Just like you feel my presence, I feel your presence. And in Golok, they see the personal form of Krishna.
Oh, what is this aprakat manifestation like? Because aprakat means unmanifest. And here Prabhupada writes aprakat manifestation. Aprakat presence, yeah.
Aprakat. Prakat, aprakat, manifested and unmanifested. So
how is the aprakat presence felt? What is it like?
what is it like? It's like Krishna. It is Krishna. You're a part and parcel of Krishna, so you also have the same presence. But now it's covered. Your own presence is covered. So therefore, you cannot see Krishna. But you can feel him. What is it like? It's Krishna's nature. By nature, Krishna is love. And you can feel that loving nature of Krishna. Just like some advanced Christians, they have a slogan, God is love. So it's a fact, you can feel his God's loving nature. That's his very nature. And you have a loving nature, the same as Krishna, because you're part and parcel of Krishna. So when your loving nature and his loving nature combine, that is called bhakti. The Mayavadis and the Jnanis and the yogis, they misinterpret. And they say that loving nature is Brahman, and that's all. It's just it's not actually, it feels like love, but it's not actually even loving. It's just a state of being. Shantaras. But one has to go further to the other rasas and they become manifest. Shantaras is like unmanifest. You're feeling his presence. So you feel it in everywhere, especially in the hearts of every living entity. Because that's where the living entity lives, in the heart. So he feels the presence of the Lord in his heart also. So this is the goal of the yogis and the jnanis. They're trying to feel that presence of God. So they have to go further to understand what is our relationship with God, not just being in his presence, a state of being. So this is Jnana Yoga, and the gopis are criticizing Krishna here. First you send Uddhava with a message how we should try to understand that the Absolute is everywhere. For Krishna is the Absolute, he is everywhere. This is the fruit of Gyan, the result of Gyan. You're understanding the presence of the Lord everywhere. And the yogi, he realizes the Paramatma, but he's interested in the both of them get their liberation, but it's in Shantaras. But the devotee's understanding of self-realization is now I've understood who I am, Aham Brahmasmi. And I have a relationship with Krishna. I'm part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is Brahman. I'm also a Brahman. So, but one has to go further in spiritual life. Most other processes of yoga and Gyan, they stop at this point. Because now it's not necessary to study anymore. The purpose of your studying was to understand the presence of the Lord, so they've done that. They become self-realized, Aham Brahmasmi. So then they say, for us, it's finished. The chanting is finished, our study of the Vedas is finished, our austerities are finished, all of these sacrifices, everything. Not necessary now, because we've understood the purpose behind them is to understand the presence of the Almighty Lord, who is present everywhere. So for us, all the study and everything, it's all finished, the Vedas. We've understood the Lord, or they've understood themselves. But for the devotees, Krishnadas Kaviraj said, now it begins at this point. Now we've come to the stage of awakened stage of Brahman. Now we can serve the Parabrahman. So for the Jnanis and the yogis, their process, when their process finishes, the devotees, no, we go on more. Now the service is really beginning. Now the service is really has meaning, because now we are feeling the Krishna's presence inside. And we have someone to serve. So yeah, because now we were serving before, but now the service has taken on a different meaning. Now we've awakened to that object of love that we were feeling and searching for. So Kaviraj Goswami says that now the chanting really begins. Not that we stop chanting. It really begins at that point. Now the hearing really begins at that point, because now everything is being done with devotion. The chanting is done with devotion. The hearing is done with devotion. Remembrance is done. Everything is done with devotion. So therefore, for the Vaishnavas, then they have further to go. Brahmasmi is just the beginning. And they realize one's eternal relationship with Krishna. Yeah. So now, because we do everything with feeling, everything has meaning now. Anyway, don't get stuck on the process of self-realization. Which is like a witch. Witch. Like Putana. She come to steal your, kill Krishna. That means she's come to kill your bhakti, to devour your bhakti. So yeah, we got to the point of liberation, the Aham Brahmasmi. Then we go on further. Whereas the Gyan is,
Stop there.
huh?
That's their goal.
That's their goal, yeah. 156. I have already killed all mischievous demons who are enemies of the Jadu dynasty, and I have also killed Kamsa and his allies. And there are 2 or 4 demons still living. I want to kill them, and after doing so I shall very soon return to Vrindavan. Please know this for certain. Two demons, that was Dandavakra and his brother Vidura. These were the last demons killed by Krishna.
After that he returned?
Hmm?
After that did he return
Yes.
to Vrindavan?
Yeah, because that battle with Dandavakra and Vidura took place at Mathura, where Dandavakra was, and Vidura. So Krishna, he went to fight them. Prabhupada said there's still a gate there. There used to be gates on every side of each of the city. So there's one gate there. It's called Danta something, where Dandavakra left. That's at Mathura to fight with Krishna on the battlefield outside the city. So then Krishna destroyed those demons. And that was the last 2 demons, Dandavakra and Vidura. But he thought, well, I'm really close to Vrindavan because we're in Mathura. Not so far to go to Vrindavan. It's okay. So then Krishna, he went back to Vrindavan at that time. And there he joined again with the devotees. And just exactly as it was when he left, Krishna recreated that situation again. And the whole of Vrindavan came to life again. The cows started to moo into drinking milk. They didn't take milk before because, the calves, they didn't take milk because the cows didn't bother to give. And Vrindavan, he saw the uppercut Lila was going on. Krishna manifested the uppercut Lila so that Uddhava could see the situation after Krishna left. So then he saw that the whole Vrindavan was alive and milking cows and all these different activities were going on. And then he closed that scene that shows the present situation. And they were all kind of dead. The cows weren't jumping the cows and they weren't drinking milk. And no activity was going on. Nobody cared to do anything. So Krishna was describing to Uddhava, that's right. The situation. And when you get there, when you go past this village, he said you will hear terrible cries coming out from that place. Don't go there. Or that it's a village. Devotees feeling separation from Krishna. Don't go near that place. So then when you see, Krishna says, when you see my mother and father, you see the state of existence therein. And Jasoda, she's sitting there, looking up that path that Akura took to take Krishna to Mathura. She's sitting gazing on that path, wondering about Krishna's return. And it says she only takes deep breaths in. She's taking these deep breaths in because when she breathes out, only Krishna comes out from her mouth. And when Krishna comes, it's just so painful. Remembering Krishna is not there, it's in separation. So as she breathes in, she just, breathing out, so much pain in separation, she's just saying, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And breathe in, that's all she's doing, she's breathing in and breathing out. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And when you see Radharani, you think she's dead. There's no life symptoms. After some time you may notice a little pulse is there in her neck. By this you can detect she's still alive, otherwise there are no life symptoms being manifest. So he returned. And when he got back into Vrindavan, then it all came to life again. Everybody started doing their activities and bells were ringing. So much activity. And then Krishna did exactly the same thing. Night time they would go on Ras Lila. Exactly the same thing for 2 months. Sanatana Goswami mentions, and I can't remember. Maybe that's something Toshani. But anyway, he came back for 2 months, and exactly the same activities went on as before. And then after that 2 months, and everything got wound up. Everything went back to where it came from. Golaka went back to the spiritual world. All the different portions who have manifested in, like the demigod portions came through Nanda and Jasoda. And everybody merged back into where they previous. And suddenly Vrindavan was empty and nothing was there, no one was there. What happened to everyone with it? But everything got wound up and it all went back to Godhead in their respective ways that they had came here through different manifestations of different personalities. And nobody could understand what happened there. Vrindavan is empty now. So Krishna come back, manifested his form and did the pastimes. Simultaneously another form went back to Dwarka. And there he wound up his pastimes also in Dwarka. I wish to protect the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the attacks of my enemies. That is why I remain in my kingdom. Otherwise I am indifferent to my royal position. Whatever wives, sons and wealth I maintain in the kingdom is only for the satisfaction of the Jadus. So here Krishna is revealing something. I wish to protect the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the attacks of my enemies. That is why I remain here in my kingdom. Otherwise I am indifferent to my royal position. Whatever sons, wife and wealth I maintain in the kingdom are only for the satisfaction of the Jadus. So here Krishna is admitting that his only satisfaction, why he's there, is for the satisfaction of the Jadus or his devotees. Otherwise Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. Same thing. When Krishna went to Mathura, after he killed Kamsa, he was going to go back to Vrindavan, but Vasudeva and Devaki wanted to keep him there and give him his education. And wanted to give him an education. So Krishna said to Nanda, Baba, that no, I'll come back very soon. I have to give my the reason I'm staying here now is to give my relatives, my real father and mother. I want to console them a little. I want to stay with them, give them some time, let them give me education and look after me. So he said, Nanda Baba, this is the only reason I'm staying here in Mathura, is for the pleasure of his mother and father and different relatives from the different dynasties. So that Krishna's greatest pleasure is Vrindavan. Therefore he admits here that whatever sons and wives, sons and wealth I maintain is in my kingdom is only for the satisfaction of the Jadus. So it's not Krishna leaves for his pleasure, he leaves for his devotees' pleasure. And he says to Nanda, the only reason I'm here is to bring my Devaki and Vasudeva some satisfaction. So Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. Why would he leave? Everything is there in Vrindavan. That's his real satisfaction. So we find that the devotees, they just worship Krishna, Vrindavan Krishna, no one else. Because if I worship someone else, like Ramchandra or another forms, it mean I'd be taking Krishna from Vrindavan. I'm worshipping Mathura Krishna or Dwarka. That means Krishna has to leave Vrindavan. So it's the last thing the devotees want is that Krishna leaves Vrindavan. So we hear that God expands himself as many for his pleasure, but actually we see here Krishna's own words. He's saying, my pleasure is Vrindavan. So that is pure unalloyed devotee. Prabhupada says, pure devotees of Krishna and unalloyed pure devotees of Krishna. So these intimate friends of Krishna in Vrindavan and these activities in the as a Vaishya community where Krishna enjoys with his boys, with his girlfriends, with his parents, the cows, the forest. That is Krishna's real pleasure. So Krishna, therefore he never leaves Vrindavan. He never puts one step outside of Vrindavan. Chapter 156. I've already killed all the mischievous demons who are enemies of the Jadu dynasty. I've also killed Kamsa and his allies. There are 2 or 4 more demons still living. I want to kill them, and after doing so, I shall very soon return to Vrindavan. Please know this for certain. Just as Krishna does not step away from Vrindavan, purport. Krishna's devotees also does not like to leave Vrindavan. However, when he has to tend to Krishna's business, he leaves Mathura. He leaves Vrindavan. Let me read that again. Just as Krishna does not take a step from Vrindavan, Krishna's devotees do not like to leave Vrindavan. However, when he has to tend to Krishna's business, he leaves Vrindavan. After finishing his mission, the pure devotee returns home back to Godhead, back to Vrindavan. Krishna assured Radharani that after killing the demon outside Vrindavan, he would return. I am coming back very soon, he promised, as soon as I have killed these few remaining demons. 157. I wish to protect the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the attacks of my enemies. That is why I remain in my kingdom, otherwise I am indifferent to my royal position. Whatever wives, sons and wealth I maintain in my kingdom are only for the satisfaction of the Jadus. So Krishna is there to bring satisfaction to the Jadus. He's the king. Sometimes Krishna manifests 4 arms in Dwarka, and they like it. All the Jadu dynasty and the Vishnu dynasty, they're relatives. How great our dynasty is that Krishna has chosen to take he performs his activities in Dwarka and Mathura. How great, he's one of our family members. And he's the Supreme Lord. Sometimes he pulls out 4 arms. So he's Narayana. So Krishna is there only to give them pleasure to his relatives. Who was in it? There's one book about Srila Prabhupada and most with his godbrothers. There's a story of, maybe it's a Goswami from Radha Damodar temple. Sometimes he would hear someone would come and they would clean the courtyard with a broom. And sometimes he would hear crying or some kind of wailing. And I think the Mahanta of that temple, I think he asked Prabhupada. He found out who it was one night. He said, I wonder who it is. I stayed up late and he saw it was Prabhupada was come cleaning the temple and crying and offering prayers. And I think he told him at that time when I got an impossible mission. My Guru Maharaj has given me this order. I don't know how to do it. So he's praying at the feet of Rupa Goswami. This Smadhi was there, and crying for the ability to be able to execute. So he got the mercy of the previous acharyas in Vrindavan. Then he could go back out and he could actually spread Krishna consciousness. That's our good fortune with Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada.
Hmm?
Jai Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada. 158. Your loving qualities always attract me to Vrindavan. Indeed, they will bring me back within 10 or 20 days. And when I return, I shall enjoy with you both day and night, with you and all the damsels of Rajabhumi. While speaking to Srimati Radharani, Krishna became very anxious to return to Vrindavan. He made her listen to a verse which banished all of her difficulties and which assured her she would attain again Krishna. Lord Krishna said, "Devotional service to me is the only way to attain me. My dear gopis, whatever love and affection you have attained for me by good fortune is the only reason for my returning to you." I'll read it again. Lord Sri Krishna said, "Devotional service unto me is the only way to attain me. My dear gopis, whatever love and affection you have attained for me by good fortune is the only reason for my returning to you." This is the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam.
Could you elaborate on this line?
Devotional service is the only way to attain me. Bhaktimam mabhajananti. I am only known by devotion. So that what love and affection you have attained means what the amount of devotion that you have attained for me. Whatever your love and affection you have attained for me by good fortune, that is the only reason for my returning to you. There's that other famous verse from Bhagavatam. I cannot repay my debt for you even out the lifetimes of demigods. The love you have shown for me is beyond me. So therefore I cannot repay your debt. So please be satisfied with your own activities. I asked someone, sannyasi, what is the meaning of that? What is that? Krishna said, please be pleased with your pious activities. What were the pious activities? And he said, the pious activities was their devotional service. They did their devotional service. They did whatever they did with love for Krishna. So he said that's their pious activities. They perform their dharma, what they're supposed to be doing with love for Krishna. And this is the only way to capture Krishna. The only reason for my returning to you is that love and devotion that they had in their heart, which they express through their everyday duties. So they always remember Krishna and their service. I remember when I was on the Vrindavan Prikram, we were staying in one place and we were staying on the rooftop. We could see different little compounds there, little walls and things like that. And one Brajavashi, she was cooking, she's lighting the fire. And there was another one, I think she was doing some washing or something, cleaning some clothes. But in different compounds. But we could see both, we could see all around them, all there. And they were having an argument. They were shouting at each other, like this, one about that, one about that. I looked at the Brajavashi who lived there, he was on the roof also, and I looked at him, and he just laughed. That's the way it happens. And no attempt to stop it or find out. I just left it there, let him go. But one thing I noticed is they didn't stop their service. They were shouting and screaming, but still they were doing their washing. Another one was making the fires, and they were, but they didn't stop their service. Yeah. The experience I had. While speaking to Srimati Radharani, Krishna became very anxious to return to Vrindavan. I left that.
162.
Huh?
162.
162. (161) Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sit in his room with Swarup Damodar and taste the topics of these verses day and night. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would dance completely absorbed in ecstatic emotion. While looking at the face of Lord Jagannath, he danced and recited these verses. No one can describe the good fortune of Swarup Damodar Goswami, for he is always absorbed in the service of the Lord with his body, mind and words.
Good fortune. What causes such good fortune?
Our association with devotees who have that fortune, who have good fortune. The senses of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were identical with the senses of Swarup. Therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to become fully absorbed in tasting the singing of Swarup Damodar.
The senses of Lord Chaitanya identical with senses of Swarup means
Or he could understand the song and the sentiment that they were singing. And he would be singing these. And Mahaprabhu would be able to hear it and relish it, but he understood what the verse was and what it meant. So what type of feeling it invoked. So then he would encourage that feeling, that mood with the shlokas and other shlokas that were conducive for awakening Krishna consciousness in the Madhurya Rasa. So he was tasting. It was tasty. And Swarup Damodar, not everybody could taste, so it's difficult to transfer if you don't have it, the same taste. But if you have the same taste, then you can become one with each other in the sense of having the proper mood of what the song was describing, loving it. It was a loving affection. Some people thought it sounded like boy and girl. but others understood no, because it was. I think he was relishing also like poems from Chandidas, and they're great poets, but a lot of people misinterpret them as boy and girl. It seems like that. Maybe in this way they protect the intimacy and the love of Radha and Krishna. In emotional ecstasy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sometimes sit on the ground, looking down, and would write on the ground with his finger. Rukmini was doing this also, I think. Or she was writing with her toe. Maybe. The gopis also, when Krishna called to the rasa dance and gave them some so-called good instructions. And gopis were a little bit, because Krishna said you better go home because it's dangerous. At night time, tigers, and jackals, and they were kind of disappointed. And looking, and then they were riding on the dust with their toes, just making designs. So it's something that we do naturally. I've seen it myself. How did you sometimes? Just idling time. But it's there in Goloka, so it's here also. In emotional ecstasy, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sometimes sit on the ground, and looking down, he would write on the ground with his finger. Finger has something to do with the toes. Fearing that the Lord would injure his finger by writing in this way, Swarup Damodar checked him with his own hand. Swarup Damodar used to sing exactly according to the ecstatic emotion of the Lord. Whenever a particular mellow was being tasted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar would personify it by singing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked upon the beautiful lotus-like face and eyes of Lord Jagannath. Lord Jagannath was garlanded, dressed with nice garments and adorned with beautiful ornaments. His face was glittering from the rays of sunshine. Okay. Usually Lord Jagannath doesn't glitter.
And the last lecture you were saying he has a buff color.
Yeah, the matte finish. Lord Jagannath was garlanded, dressed with nice garments and adorned with beautiful ornaments. His face was glittering from the rays of sunshine, and the entire atmosphere was fragrant. An ocean of transcendental bliss expanded in the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and symptoms of madness immediately intensified like a hurricane. The madness of transcendental bliss created by the waves of various emotions. The emotions appeared like opposing soldiers staging a fight. There was an increase in the natural emotional symptoms. Thus they were awakening emotionless, peacefulness, joined, mixed, transcendental, and prevalent emotions, and impetuses for emotion. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body appeared like a transcendental Himalayan mountain, bearing ecstatic emotion, flower trees, all of them blooming. The sight of all these symptoms attracted everyone's mind and consciousness. Indeed, the Lord sprinkled everyone's mind with the nectar of transcendental love of Godhead.
Indeed.
He sprinkled the minds of the servants of Lord Jagannath, the government office, the pilgrims, visitors, and general populace, and all the residents of Vrindavan. He said he sprinkled the minds of all those people, everyone who was there, the government officers, but everyone who was there got sprinkled with these. He sprinkled the minds. That means they were floating in Vaikuntha, ecstasy. The mind is like swimming. When you're in the water, wave after wave after wave. Not all the same, constantly fluctuating. So the mind is like being swept away over here by this emotion and over that. They become endowed with all these different emotions. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving everyone a taste. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted. He wanted to come and give them a taste. This is the idea of his appearance. 2 reasons. One is a selfish reason, and one is his merciful reasons as a Yuga avatar to give everyone a taste of Krishna Prem. And the other reason was for himself to taste that Prem of Radha, that he didn't know how to achieve that and taste that unless he took the form of a devotee. So Krishna took the form of the greatest devotee, Srimad Radharani. And he experienced that, and also he distributed it. Here we're reading how he's distributed to all the minds of the servants of Jagannath, the government officers, pilgrims, visitors, people in general. The general populace, that means everyone, the common people also. They were all caught up in the ecstasy. Mind is just swimming like intoxicated. Jaya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Rama Rama Hare Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita ki Jai. The Lord's dancing at the Rath Yatra Festival ki Jai. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda. Nitai Go Premanandi. Hare Hare Go. Thank you.